The Bicameral Conference Committee has approved the consolidated version of the proposed 2023 national budget. The Bicam restored the Department of Education's 150 million peso confidential and intelligence funds, as well as the National Task Force to End Local Communist Armed Conflict's 10 billion peso budget. To tell us more, here's Denisa Fernandez reporting live. Denisa?
The Bicameral Conference Committee has approved a panel report on the proposed 5.268 trillion peso national budget, which contains the reconciled versions from the Senate and the House of Representatives. During the meeting on Monday at the Manila Golf and Country Club, Senator Sonny Angara and ACO Bicol Party List Representative Elizalde Co presented the committee report just shortly after the bicameral committee convened. The committee was able to reconcile the Senate and House's versions of the proposed budget less than 2 weeks after its first meeting. The Bicameral Conference Committee started deliberating on the 2023 General Appropriations Bill or GAB last November 25. Among the provisions agreed upon by both chambers regarding the GAB was the restoration of the 150 million peso confidential and intelligence funds or CIFs under the Department of Education or DepEd and the original 10 billion peso budget of the National Task Force to End Local Communist Armed Conflict or NTF-LCAC. In an ambush interview on the sidelines of the committee's hearing, Angara said that all the other CIF cuts made by the Senate have been kept, except for the DepEd's. Cominoel said that it is important that the DepEd's CIF is maintained as there are young people being recruited into scrupulous groups. To recall, there was strong opposition in the Congress about providing a 150 million CIF to DepEd, as minority lawmakers believe that supervision and intelligence gathering is not part of the DepEd mandate. In the Senate, the DepEd's CIFs were slashed to 30 million pesos. The 120 million pesos was realigned to the agency's maintenance and other operating expenses. In the House, the DepEd CIF was not touched. Meanwhile, the NTF-LCAC's budget for next year has been restored to its original 10 billion pesos. Asked where the funding was sourced, Angara, the Senate Finance Committee chairperson, replied that there was a pool of funds. Earlier, the House Bicameral Committee planned to restore the funds removed from the NTF-LCAC despite lagging in accomplishing its projects. Co shared that only 2% of the task force's projects have been completed or are ongoing this year, while 98% are in the pre-procurement or procurement stage. Despite the slow project completion, House Speaker Martin Romualdez and Deputy Senior Majority Leader Ferdinand Alexander Sandro Marcos instructed to reinstate the budget, said Co, citing NTF-LCAC's role in helping end insurgency in the country. The bicameral panel approved the consolidated version of the proposed 2023 budget. The reconciled version of the budget was sent to the plenary of both chambers for ratification.
Denisa, this is a huge story. I want to go back to the deliberation process. So, because during that time, as you mentioned in your report, minority lawmakers were apprehensive on approving this, mainly because they say that confidential funds are not really a part of DepEd's mandate. Can you bring me back to that time, and how did the Vice President and Education Secretary Sara Duterte defend the need for the confidential and intelligence funds?
Yes, Neil, in several hearings, Vice President and concurrent DepEd Secretary Sara Duterte pointed out that basic education has a direct link to national security. In defending the need for CIFs, she cited issues such as sexual grooming of students, youth recruitment to terrorism, and drug use of DepEd workers, among others.
Napag-usapan nga natin kanina, mayroong pushback dito sa Kongreso at sa Senado regarding the confidential and intelligence funds. So now that they decided, the Bicameral Conference Committee at least, decided to restore this, did they give any rationale as to why they decided to give the Office of the Vice President, the Department of Education rather, this amount?
Yes, Neil. According to Representative Co, it is important to retain the DepEd CIFs as there are learners who are being recruited to scrupulous groups. With the funds, he said that the future of those children could be secured.
So now that the BICAM has approved this, it only needs itong approval ng House and ng Senate before it is transmitted to the President for his signing, right?
Yes, Neil. And
Okay.
as they said, the budget could be approved in time before Christmas. It could be
Okay.
signed by President Marcos.
Okay, we'll monitor the developments on this story. Thank you, Denisa. That's Denisa Fernandez reporting live.